Hi everyone, I'm Marianne, and welcome to this little moment about the season of Yule. So, Yule means wheel, and tide means season. So, Yule tide, you've probably heard that expression, literally translates to the season of the wheel. And so, after the time of the deep, our three harvest festivals, here we land right at Cardinal North in the time of deep winter. And we're tired. And so, in our earth based animist life, we get to really reclaim this time as entering the dreaming cave, as entering the time of rest, restoration, renewal, reflection, where we look back in appreciation, gratitude, learning, and we also start to look ahead. In this dreaming cave, we have our 12 nights of dreaming practice that helps us to head from this oracular experience. We also get to lean into visioning and to really see with thy single eye, what it is that we're placing our attention on. And this time of dreaming, this time of divination is also about deep restoration. So prioritizing sleep, really getting into a place of slowing down and living in a slowed down rhythm and pace that's in alignment with what's happening with the earth, which is the physicality is very quiet and the internal experience is more activated. And so here in the north, we are tending the roots. We're staying close to our ancestors through the acknowledgement of Mother's Night, making offerings to our spirit allies and our ancestors and our matrilineal lineages, the ones who birthed us, as we celebrate the birth of light, the return of the sun through solstice, the longest night of the year. So, this whole season of Yule that carries us into January, because it's traditionally it's many days, it's the Yules, it's the wheels, it's not exclusive to one day, one point on the calendar, and has only been more in recent times appointed to December 25th. Similarly, with New Year's, that fell traditionally more around the time of spring equinox, the rebirth and the renewal, the emergence of the earth. And that was our new year. And then with the creation of the Gregorian calendar, it got moved to January 1. So it's okay if you're not feeling like that level of vitality that the new year can bring. It's all right to appoint it to another time on the wheel that feels more aligned with you and your relationship with the earth and your body and being when things are starting to spring forth and be more activated. Three practices for Yule I invite you to consider for yourself. One is to write yourself a letter from this most yin time of year. So, as we're deep in the cave, it's the most yin, the most lunar, from a place of reflection and stream of consciousness, writing yourself a letter that you'll open at summer solstice. So if you were with us at summer solstice, you remember the invitation is to write yourself a letter from the most yang, the most solar time of year to open in winter solstice. So have a time of opening that letter if you engaged in that practice and drinking in the solar essence of that past you who shared forth some bits of wisdom and what was alive for you in the summer. And then also scribe what's really present and alive for you in this time of deep inwardness, this time of deep yin that you can drink of when we're at our most young at summer solstice. So, this season of Yule is activated by the gateway of solstice, this longest night, which lasts for 3 nights. It's not, again, another fixed point. The solstices and the definition of solstice is sun stands still and it occurs for several days in succession. So, with this invitation to also honor the longest night with a vigil. Traditionally, it's a stay up all night vigil. If that's not aligned for you, like it's not for me right now, I invite you to wake in the early pre dawn hours. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5 a.m. to be in the deep dark, to be in the communion with the depth of the darkening length, and to sit with the arrival of the sun, to be with the witnessing, the sacred witnessing in inner and outer ways of what the sun feels like and has for you and what it brings to you. And there's some contemplations on the blog at Blue Star Medicine, some specific inquiry, um, questions for contemplation to be with as you're sitting in the deep and in the dark. So I invite you to check that out and bring that into that sacred sit. And so that's another beautiful practice that we can do at this time. And then intentionally bringing in evergreens. And so maybe you have a Christmas tree, maybe you have boughs, but be with the ancestral practice of bringing in the evergreens to bring freshness and the remembrance that life is eternal and that life is everlasting and that life goes through these phases of what it looks like, but there is a continuum. And the evergreens at this time of year, they remind us of that. And so, like decking the halls with boughs of holly, the spruce, the firs, the pines, bringing them in, maybe doing a simmer pot. So that's a low steam pot on your stove with some of these to just bring the aromatics into your living space. And also making pine tea. So if you feel called to gather white pine, and so white pine, you know it because it has 5 needles per bundle on the tree, and you can count the 5 needles. So white pine, there's 5 letters in the word white. So it's a white pine if there's 5 needles, and it's a red pine if there's 3, and there's 3 letters in the word red. So that's a little nature connection pro tip to be able to identify the pines that you come across. And so if you know that they're in a good place, that there hasn't been atmospheric, um, you know, irradiation, then harvest some of those pine needles, cut them up into pieces to open up to the oils inside, and simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then drink some white pine tea. That's incredibly good for your immune system. It contains a large amount of vitamin C and is a really, really great ally for this time of year. And so enjoy that pine tea. Enjoy that longest night vigil, sitting and being in the deep and welcoming the return of the sun. Consider a way that you want to welcome the sun. Maybe it's with song, maybe it's with drumming, maybe it's with another instrument, maybe it's with silence. And also write yourself that letter that you can open when you're in the most active time in the year to remember the medicine in the wisdom of stillness and renewal. Happy dreaming, happy visioning. If you feel called to experience more of what the season has to offer, join me for the next gathering of ceremonial art series. We have the Solstice Mysterium called Sila or Selah, which is the sacred pause. So join me in the sacred pause. This is where we're going to do this year's visioning, and we'll deepen into nervous system care and other practices and rituals of the season to highlight this in your life and to be aligned with the Earth's medicine, which is an antidote to these times, and to remember who we are in an embodied way. So until we meet again, peace and blessings.